way, I do want to thank Wolva Lion. I see him in the chat.
Take it to the house, I'm about to touchdown. G's living lavish.
Come on, golf. Come on, golf.
Belly's big, but they full. We do it big. I know you wish you could.
What's going on, sports fans? It's your host, Coach Mike Jones. Shout out to the Detroit sports, Michigan sports, man. This is what it's about, man. I'm not just a Michigan Wolverine and Detroit Lion fan. I'm not just going to do videos on that. I'm going to do videos on all of Michigan sports, even though I'm not really a Sparty, but if there is something that is significant that drops with them, I will let you know. But hey, first, like the video, share the video, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, hit all them buttons, man. Help me get this content out to more Wolverine and Michigan sport fans like yourself. Yes, I got on the shirt, man. I got the cut off and everything, man. But what I want to talk about today, I'm gonna keep it real short, real simple. It's a real direct thing, and then it's what Trajan Langdon is going to do in the offseason. Now, let's be clear: the Detroit Pistons are kind of trending toward 2027's offseason being the big offseason where they can spend. But you do expect the Detroit Pistons to do something. You have to help Cade out somehow to get some scoring in there. There are a lot of role players on the Pistons, excuse me, but I feel like that's all there are is just role players. Like Cade needs help. So this would be a real telling off season because when you look at it, Trajan, he gets a pass for this season for overachieving, right? Like nobody expected the Detroit Lions to be at this point. Like let's just keep it real. None of us expected the Detroit Pistons. Sorry, Wolf Lions. So, but nobody expected the Detroit Pistons to be at this point. With that being said, I do still feel like the playoffs were somewhat of a failure, even though nobody expected us to be 60-22. But when you're a number one seed, you're a number one seed, regardless of how you got that number one seed. Just like the Detroit Lions, when they were the number one seed, and then everybody got injured and they ended up losing to the Commanders. Still, you're a number one seed. So when you have that number one seed, you're expected to perform like a number one seed. So with that being said, I do think that Trajan Langdon should go out, and I believe he will go out and find Cade some help. I did listen to the presser yesterday. Um, and he, I mean, I don't know what people expect Trajan to say. He's not gonna like tell you all his moves. You know what I'm saying? So like that part, he's not going to do that. But one thing Trajan did do is he did say that they were going to look into it, and they were going to try and figure some things out, man. And there are a few guys right now that are on the market that you could add. One, I would not try and add Kyrie Irving. Um, Even though Kyrie is a clutch player, you just never know with his age. Well, he's not that old, but you never know after the ACL injuries. You never know how people are affected, right? I'm not going to risk my season on a guy who has been battling injuries now the last couple of seasons, right? So you go on, you look. Let me straighten up a little bit. You go on, you look. You know. Also, there was a report that came out that Detroit was connected with the names of Larry Markkinen and Kawhi Leonard. Um, so I'm not sure, what they, what the asking price would be for them. I'm sure, first round picks, and a few players. Um, Larry Markkinen, that's a guy who's very talented. I just am not sold on him. I'm not sold on Kawhi Leonard either because he's a big game player. Like he's a guy who could easily ease the load on K. Just that his health, how healthy is he? Is Kawhi Leonard? That's the big thing. Is Kawhi Leonard gonna be ready when it's time to be ready? Then you look, I know there's been mentionings about Trey Murphy, Lions around the Trey Murphy trade, and there's the Trey Murphy rumors that are going around. Um, so I don't know, how much validity that has, but I did hear that from a few sources, few places. There's a guy that people talk about and they keep trying to insinuate, and that guy is Devin Booker. I think Devin Booker, that would be my number one, right? Because this is a backcourt game. Like the NBA is backcourt dominated, right? And if you had Cade and Devin Booker in that backcourt, man, like you're carving up defenses. So that's what I will go with. Another name, big name that I will go with, even though he's a little older, right? So you don't know what you're gonna get out of him in the full 82 game season plus the playoffs. But there's still a dominant force is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yeah, I said it. Antetokounmpo. Giannis, now what would you have to give up for Giannis? You probably have to give up Duran. Um, and really, you gotta think, what are you gonna get out of Giannis? Giannis probably, you're probably gonna get 3 good seasons out of Giannis, right? He probably has 3 more seasons where he can affect the game dominantly, because he was held out, by Milwaukee those last few games. So if you think his health is a problem, it wasn't. Giannis wanted to play. Milwaukee didn't want him to play because they didn't want Giannis to put any more tread on his body because they're trying to trade him. So, you can look at Giannis, right? But you probably gonna have to give up Duran for Giannis, which I'm perfectly fine with, honestly. And that's not an overreaction from what Jalen did in the playoffs. That's back to back playoffs where Duran didn't do anything. If you really want to be honest, Duran did better in last year's playoffs than he did in this year's playoffs. Like, hold on, let me look it up real quick. Like I'm almost certain that Jalen Duran did better statistically in the 2025 playoffs than he did in 2026. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, because in those playoffs, Jalen Duran averaged 11.8 points, 10.7 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 1.7 blocks. In that 6 game series against the New York Knicks. So he basically, I don't really do like point 0.8 point, you know what I'm saying? Anything above 0.6 or 7, I just round it to the next point. So he basically averaged 12 points and 11 rebounds and 3.5 assists and 2 blocks. Basically, is what Jalen Duran averaged in the 2025 playoff series against the New York Knicks. You want to know what Jalen Duran averaged this playoff series? He averaged 10.1 points, which is 10 points, 8.3 rebounds, which I say is 8, and 2.3 assists, which is, I'll say 2. So 10 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. That's significantly worse. How could you have a decline? when you go from 19 and a half points and 10 and a half rebounds a game. So because of this just regression, I would put Jaden Duran on Jalen Duran on the chopping block. Um, just cause. I can get I think I will get better prime playoff play from Giannis than I will get from Duran. Now maybe Duran might mature in a few years, but it's like, are you willing to waste Cade's few, like, how much time are you willing to waste on Cade? You know what I mean? Are willing to waste of Cade? That's what it really comes down to. Are you willing to wait 2, 3 years for Cade? Because you never know who he might get injured, right? Grant Hill, you know what I'm saying? He might get injured and he might not be the same a couple years from down the line. So I'm not willing to just put all the shells or the eggs in the Jalen Duran will eventually mature basket. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to trade him straight up, but I'm just saying we're wasting time, right? We're wasting time on Cade's clock. With maybes and possibilities and hopefullys. And I'm just not a guy that is willing to do that. So I would definitely you could probably do damn near a straight up swap because Jalen Duran's so young and Giannis is getting up there. So Giannis has been in the game for about 13, 14 years. I do believe. Let me look it up real quick. I do believe Giannis has been in the game. He's been in the game. Let's see here. Yeah, Giannis has played 895 games. Like, you know what I'm saying? So Giannis, yeah, yeah, yeah. Giannis he came into the league in 2013. 2014 was his first season. So yeah, Giannis has been there for 13 years. So he's no spring chicken. But with that being said, he'll step up. He'll play. I mean, this year alone, you know, um, he still was a force. When he played, he was a force. So still averaged 27.6 points. Still average 9.8 rebounds. So like I said, man, I would trade Giannis for Duran any day. But just let me know in the comment section, how do you feel like Trajan Langdon should improve this roster? Like, what moves do you think Trajan Langdon should do to improve this roster? Now, I know 2027 is the big year where the Pistons can spin, but there's some move that Trajan has to make in order to go into next season confidently, knowing that, hey, I'm going to go into these playoffs and we have championship aspirations. I don't think that anybody thought that the Detroit Pistons were going to be an NBA Finals team. I thought we all were hoping for an Eastern Conference Finals. We got eliminated in the semis. So you can say the season was a success. I see the season as a failure. I feel like the regular season was a success. I feel like the playoffs was a failure. You didn't really play well in the first round. That goes 7 games. You go to the second round, it goes 7 games. But again, that's just from the roster makeup. They didn't have the roster overachieved. But once you set that bar of overachieving, you have to keep overachieving. You can't regress and say it's all because of this and that, man. So but leave a comment in the comment section, man. Just tell me, what moves do you think that Trajan Langdon should make? What do you want him to make? And and hopefully we go into next season ready, locked and loaded, man. Cause it's Detroit basketball. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But hey, man, I'm your host, Coach Mike Jones. And to get up out of here, man. Peace.